We welcome you to GDPR presentation. Sea Chels Group, with a head office located in Switzerland, is one of the cruise industry's leading service providers worldwide, offering hotel, restaurant and crew management for both seagoing vessels and river cruise vessels. What is GDPR? On May 25, 2018, the new European privacy regulation, called the General Data Protection Regulation, came into effect. It concerns all companies selling and storing personal information about citizens in Europe, including companies on other continents. This way, European citizens will have greater control over their personal data and be sure that their information is secure and protected across Europe. What is personal data? Personal data is any information related to a person, such as a name, a photo, an email address, bank details, updates on social networking websites, location details, medical information, or even a computer IP address. What is sensitive data? The GDPR is extremely protective of sensitive data. This includes personal data that reveals any of the following: being a member of a trade union, which could be revealed by simply going to a union event; biometrics, when you want to identify someone, for example, a fingerprint you use to open doors; health status, which may be revealed in guest requests; sex life or sexual preferences, which may also be revealed in some guest requests. There is some other data that is less possible to show up in companies in the hospitality industry, but should still be considered sensitive in case they do show up. That is genetic data, racial or ethnic origin, political opinions, religious or philosophical beliefs. There's no difference between personal data about individuals in their private, public, or work roles. The person is the person. Personal information Sea Chels collects and processes: photo, name and surname, date and place of birth, mobile and home numbers, nationality, sex, body measurements, copy of identification or passport, seaman's book, vaccination book, home address, bank account details, social insurance number, next of kin information, marital status, education, diplomas or training certificates, employment history, medical history, medical certificates or sick leaves, visa information, salary information, email address, personnel, employee or crew records, complaint and investigation records, personnel, employee or crew appraisal records, religious orientation, which is applicable only to German citizens due to church tax. Data controller and data processor according to the GDPR. Controller is the natural or legal person, public authority, agency, or other body which, alone or along with others, determines why and how personal data should be handled. Processor is the natural or legal person, public authority, agency, or other body which processes personal data on behalf of the controller. Processing of data in GDPR. Processing means any action or set of actions which is performed on personal data or on sets of personal data whether or not by automated means such as collection, recording, organization, structuring, storage, adaptation or alteration, retrieval, consultation, use, disclosure by transmission, dissemination or otherwise making available, alignment or combination, restriction, erasure, or destruction. Rights of individuals. Under the GDPR compliance, individuals have the right to access. This means that individuals have the right to request access to their personal data and to ask how their data is used by the Sea Chefs company after it has been collected. The Sea Chefs must provide a copy of the personal data free of charge and in electronic format if it is necessary. The right to be forgotten. If individuals are no longer employees or if they no longer agree that Sea Chefs can use their personal data, then they have the right to ask us to delete their data. The right to data portability. Individuals have a right to transfer their data from one service provider to another, and it must happen in a commonly used and machine-readable format. The right to be informed. This has to do with the data that Sea Chefs collects. Consumers must be informed before their data is collected. They can choose if they want their data to be gathered, and they must state so freely and clearly instead of implying it in any way. The right to have information corrected. This makes sure that individuals can have their data updated if it is out of date or incomplete or incorrect. The right to restrict processing. Individuals can request that we do not process their data. Their record can stay where it is but not be used. The right to object. This has to do with the right of individuals to stop the processing of their data, for example, for direct marketing. There are no exemptions to this rule, and any processing must stop the minute we receive such a request. In addition, individuals must be informed about this right at the beginning of any communication. The right to be notified. If a data violation which puts an individual's personal data in danger occurs, the individual has a right to be informed within 72 hours once we have become aware of the violation. Sea Chefs, as your employer, has the legal basis for the collection, use and storage of your personal data. The company manages your data according to the provisions of the new General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. The 7 key GDPR principles for compliance. Lawful, fair, and transparent processing. This principle emphasizes transparency for all EU data subjects. When the data is collected, it must be clear as to why that data is being collected and how the data will be used. Sea Chefs must also agree to provide details concerning the data processing if someone asks. For example, if someone asks who the data protection officer is at Sea Chefs or what data Sea Chefs has about them, that information needs to be available. Purpose limitation. This principle means that Sea Chefs need to have a legal and valid reason for processing the information in the first place. Consider all the organizations that require forms with 20 fields when all they really need is a name, email, shipping address, and maybe a phone number. In other words, this principle says that Sea Chefs shouldn't collect any piece of data that doesn't have a specific reason. Data minimization. This instructs organizations to make sure they collect the necessary appropriate data within limits. Nowadays, businesses collect every piece of data possible for different reasons, such as understanding customer buying behaviors and patterns or remarketing based on intelligent analytics. Based on this principle, Sea Chefs must be sure that it stores the minimum amount of data required for its purpose. accurate and up-to-date processing. This principle requires data controllers to make sure information remains accurate, valid, and appropriate for the reason it was collected. To comply with this principle, the organization must have a pre-arranged process and policies to deal with how they will keep the data they are processing and storing. It may seem like a lot of work, but an effort to keep accurate customer and employee databases will help prove that they are following the rules, and hopefully they will also prove useful to the business. Limitation of storage in the form that permits identification. This principle is there to stop deleting and copying unnecessary data. It limits how the data is stored and moved, how long the data is stored, and requires that we understand how people would be identified if their data records were violated for any reason. Sea Chefs must have control over the storage and movement of data. This includes having clear policies of how data will be kept and not allowing data to be stored in several places. For example, Sea Chefs should stop users from saving a copy of a customer list on a local laptop or moving the data to an external device, such as a USB. It would be a nightmare to have numerous illegal copies of the same data in different locations. Confidential and secure. This principle protects the integrity and privacy of data by making sure it is secure. Sea Chefs, who's collecting and processing data, is now responsible for taking appropriate security measures according to the risks and rights of individuals. There's no longer an excuse under GDPR to be careless. So Sea Chefs must spend a great amount of resources to protect the data from those who have bad intentions. To succeed in this, Sea Chefs should evaluate how well these security policies work. They can do that by applying dynamic access controls, knowing the identity of the people who have access to the data, and protecting individuals against illegal actions. Accountability and liability. This principle makes sure that organizations can prove that they are following the rules. Sea Chefs must be able to show to the government that they have taken the necessary steps to avoid any risks. Sea Chefs must be sure that every step within the GDPR strategy can be easily examined and collected as evidence quickly and efficiently. For example, GDPR requires organizations to respond to requests from individuals concerning what data is available about them. Sea Chefs must be able to remove that data quickly if it is necessary. Sea Chefs needs to have a clear process of how they will accomplish what they have been asked to do, but they also need to have a clear procedure that proves that they took the proper actions. Legal basis for collection and process of information. The Sea Chels Group is all about protecting the privacy and handling of individuals' personal data in an open and clear way. The processing of personal data is done following the GDPR regulations for the following reasons, which provide legal basis. For the performance of an employment contract, how personal data is processed has to comply with the responsibilities stated in the employment contract. For compliance with the legal obligation, how personal data is processed has to comply with the legal requirements. For the purposes of safeguarding legitimate interests, the processing of personal data is necessary for the legitimate interests of the company or a third party. A legitimate interest is when we have a business or commercial reason to use your information. Such examples are claims, court proceedings, arbitration, and any other legal procedures we may have the right to establish, exercise, or defend. methods and processes we follow to provide for the company's ID and system security, preventing any possibility of crime, asset security, entry controls, and anti-trespassing measures, setting up CCTV systems, for example, at offices to prevent crime or fraud, measures to manage business and for further developing products and services. Consent, stating a clear agreement that allows processing of special categories of personal data for the reasons already set out. For example, consent will be obtained for medical and criminal records. How you safeguard the personal data in Sea Chels Group. The Sea Chels Group is dedicated to protecting the privacy of individuals and uses adequate security controls to prevent unauthorized access, use, loss, destruction, and damage of personal information. Encryption, firewalls, access control standards, and other procedures are used to protect information from unauthorized access and ensure security. There are some simple things you must always do. Use strong passwords that include upper and lowercase letters, characters, and numbers, and never share them. Never send personal details in emails unless they are password protected. File attachments to emails that contain personal data must always be password protected. Never leave your computer or device unlocked. Make sure no stranger can see your screen if it has personal data on it. Ensure your antivirus software is properly installed and up to date. If you're not sure, ask your IT team. Any data you take out of your work on a hard copy or electronic one must be protected at all times. Memory cards, USB sticks, or any other storage device must be encrypted and the hardware must be fully protected. Let's not forget about paper personal data that can be found in markbooks lists and various other records. Use 3 simple rules. Cover it, lock it, shred it. Designation of a Data Protection Officer. A Data Protection Officer, or DPO, is situated at the Cyprus office, whose main responsibilities are informing and advising Sea Chefs and its employees of the responsibilities of the GDPR and other data protection laws, monitoring compliance of Sea Chefs, both its practices and policies, with the GDPR and other data protection laws, raising staff awareness of data protection laws, providing relevant training to staff, carrying out data protection related checks, and finally, acting as a contact point for individuals on all issues concerning the processing of their personal data, and may also exercise their rights under the GDPR. Privacy officers are appointed to the Germany and Switzerland offices to oversee that GDPR is enforced. The aim is to ensure that GDPR is applied effectively and comprehensively throughout the group, to show transparency, accountability, and security of the arrangements in place, and to make sure that the implementation of technical and organizational measures across the group is done easily and fast. Contact information for the Data Protection Officer. Data Protection Officer at seachefs.com. Telephone number 00357 2520 6625. The GDPR is the EU's way of giving individuals, prospects, customers, contractors, and employees more power over their data and less power to the organizations that collect and use such data for financial gain. Sea Chefs is committed to maintaining the privacy of its employees, customers, and partners.